Ministers are flying. You will find a minister taking a chopper from Nairobi to go and plant a tree in Kakamega, to plant one tree.
I remember that.
What level of stupidity is this one? Then how can you turn back and ask people to live within means? In any event, the money they are spending recklessly on opulence, living like this fashion, and we can see it, and they're even vomiting on our feet. We can see it. Some of them have not even run a kiosk. Some of them are so theoretical. They have never worked anywhere. They have no experience. Today, it is doctors who are being mistreated. If he succeeds, he'll go for teachers. If he succeeds, he'll go for other public servants. If he succeeds, he'll come for the police. If he succeeds, he'll go for the army. He should not be allowed. He must be stopped now. What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house. This is not Sogoi. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post-Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.
A very good day to you and welcome to Philip Kisia Unscripted. My name is Jadiel Kabiro. Always glad that you join us for these conversations. Conversations we say we hope will help our leaders in making better policy decisions and informed political moves. Today we're sitting outside under a tree getting the fresh breeze as we talk about conversations to shape this country. Our conversation today, of course, is about what has been happening at Bomas of Kenya, the National Wage Bill Conference. I'm here with Philip Kisia. We want to talk about this and much more. Kisia, thanks for making time again this week. How are you doing?
Jed, I'm good, man.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a week full of drama.
Yeah. Full of drama, left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Tell me though, what is the highlight that you've seen this week that has surprised you this week?
And Jed, not really surprised, but shocked. And you know, I must say that, and I've told you several times that I come from a very religious background. The fact that my great-grandfather was a founder of the Quaker Church in Kenya. You know, puts me in a very, very difficult position when I'm commenting on matters to do with religion. But I think even before we dive into today's conversation, and I'll be talking about my views on what our First Lady said in relation to science and religion, I would want you to play this video that I've seen being played on social media, giving a comparison between Mama Rachel and the First Lady of Sierra Leone.
As a First Lady, I am not part of a government system. So when I speak on behalf of the people because I understand what the people are going through. At the end of the day, I'm not being paid salary and I cannot be fired either. We cannot wait for other people to come and develop us. Every mining company that is in Sierra Leone today is owned by a foreigner. You cannot be coming to our country and take everything that will make us develop, and then you still treat us as inferior people, as if we don't know what we're doing. The sense about us celebrating independence, I don't know why we celebrate independence, because we are not free.
Ambayo Mungu alitupatia kupitia maombi. Sisi wote tunajua hivyo, si ndio? Tumeambiwa mambo ya mvua, wakati tulikuwa na kiangazi, tulienda tukaomba, Mungu akatupatia mvua. Tumeona shilingi yetu imeweza kupata nguvu. Dola shilingi ilikuwa imeenda mpaka 160. Ilikuwa inaelekea 165. Siku moja ikarudi mpaka ikafika 140. Siku nyingine ikafika 135, 130 na bado inarudi nyuma. Hebu niwaulize kama si Mungu, huyo ni nani?
That is the First Lady of Sierra Leone. Kisia, why are we comparing the two?
You see, I mean, they are both First Ladies. One is the First Lady of Sierra Leone, and the other one is the First Lady of Kenya. They are both First Ladies. They are spouses to the heads of states of those two particular countries. But why are we drawing a comparison? If you carefully listen to the First Lady of Sierra Leone, she's very, very, you know, she seems to be very grounded, because she has talked about the mineral resources or the resources that their country has, and how they have been exploited by the West, and what mitigation factors they need to put in place as a country to ensure that their resources are not exploited. She also said something that was very profound. She said that she is not a public servant. She is not paid by the state. She doesn't use public funds, and therefore she can speak, and she speaks on behalf of the citizens.
Yeah.
So, and then when I was trying to draw a parallel between her and Mama Rachel, you know, it was like a day and night, because Mama Rachel talked of something very significant. She talked about, you know, Uganda. She made reference to Uganda, this revival thing that started, I think, in 1930. And as a result of the revival, Uganda's experienced very high levels of rain, and their soil is extremely fertile, which is a fact. Uganda has better, experienced better rain than Kenya, and of course their soil is fertile. Then when she was drawing a parallel, she said that we could be affected because probably we are not as religious as the Ugandans are, and we have not had this revival.
I want us to listen to her.
Revival. Wait a minute. Revival. The revival. There seems to be a revival in Kenya. She even suggested that we need to have a holiday, just like the Americans do, and the Americans have had this for decades. So I think you can play this video.
Let's listen to her.
Let's listen to her.
I want to also mention about, I didn't know that was going to be your highlight, but I also have some tweets that you made. We'll talk about that. But listen to Rachel Ruto on why Uganda is fertile. Kisia, this is what you said. I suggest sincere prayers for the first family. Something seems amiss. What sets Mrs. Ruto apart from someone drinking poison and seeking a witch doctor's help? Soil and rains aren't influenced by prayer warriors. Are these beliefs any different from the Shakahola Brigade? Now, it seems that you created a beef with Herman Manyora, who seems to believe that the First Lady actually has a right to praise her God. He said religion and belief go hand in hand. In fact, the two are one and the same, and this is personal. Let the First Lady, Mama Rachel Ruto, worship and praise her God in peace. You have compared her with Sierra Leone's First Lady. Are you beefing with Herman on this? Do you agree with Herman for some reason that she has a right to...
You know, listen, first of all, you know, Herman is my senior in all aspects. So with a lot of, with profound respect, I agree with Herman to the extent that, you know, the First Lady needs to be given space, you know, to pray or to believe in whatever she believes in. That is okay. But to the extent that she's a public figure, and being a public figure, whatever she says is taken seriously. I think that's where we differ with Prof. So there's need, first of all, to appreciate the fact that expression of your religious beliefs is actually guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. So to that extent, I think Mama Rachel is okay, and I agree with Prof. But then there's a line that must be drawn between your own beliefs and speech. While your beliefs are guaranteed by through the Bill of Rights, but your speech, especially when you're a public figure, must be measured. Okay, because it has an impact on the citizenry. What you say as a public figure, and I can give examples. You remember the chaos that happened in the U.S. when President Trump encouraged people to disobey, or when he disagreed with the electoral results. Okay, he actually incited chaos on 6th January 2021. Why did people? Because he has a following, and people believe in what he said, that he had been robbed of the victory.
Yes. Okay,
that was a pronouncement. That was a speech coming from a public figure. I don't want to mention the name, but one of their neighbors encouraged people to, you know, instead of taking precaution with COVID, to take other measures that were not scientific. you know the consequences.
Oh.
You actually, have you forgotten?
Yes.
You know what happened.
I'm getting you.
Yeah, he said there's no COVID. Please, these are all rumors, of propaganda. You know, I would suggest that you do ABCD. It was catastrophic, the results. Okay? So, you see, what Mama Rachel said, for me, is no different from cultism. Okay? What's the difference between that?
You're comparing it to the Shakahola.
I mean, what's the difference? Because this Shakahola fellow misled people. So you don't need medication. You just need to pray, and God will cure you. And you know what happened. The recorded numbers are over 300 people, human beings who died because of such careless and reckless statements coming from somebody with the influence of others. Okay? Then there are also other implications. For example, can you imagine people believing what Mama Rachel said, and you know, they avoid using fertilizer to grow their crops
and start praying instead?
Food security that Ruto is talking about would be affected because our soils need fertilizer, and it's a matter of science. It's not a matter of prayer, it's a science. Scientists will come and look at our soil and say, this is the type of fertilizer that you need to apply on your soil to get a better yield.
Okay.
So the yield is likely to be affected. People are likely to lose their jobs. Factories are likely to close. You know, it is a serious statement that should not be taken lightly. And, you know, you can imagine what if those factories close because people are born to believe what the First Lady is talking, talking about. So, what a public figure says, especially as a First Lady or the President, it must be a message that is very carefully crafted, that is real, that is not based on propaganda, yeah, and knowing that what you say, in fact, under Chapter 6. Any public servant is actually gagged in what you can say publicly and even what you can say privately. You can't just make statements.
So what?
You can actually be taken to task. So for me, you know, I would rather, when you are holding such a space, you make statements that are purely on such a matter that are purely based on science. Yeah, you know, so that you don't create crisis within the community that you are supposed to provide leadership. Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm saying that I mean, people have to pray. I come from that background, but let us not misuse. You know, let us not misuse prayer. You know, because really, for me, this amounts to some Shakahola mentality. It's cultism, which must be stopped.
How
if we are prosecuting that man that encouraged Kenyans to do what they did in Shakahola, why should Mama Rachel be left to continue using her office to make statements that are not too far from this guy who caused deaths?
What actionable steps are you looking for, Kisia? Because you're saying this is more of a cult, this is a Shakahola mentality.
Yes.
What actionable steps do you want to see from the administration now?
You see, we must be real. Do you see President Ruto directing the agencies to take action against the spouse? But if you were really living in a civilized society, this would have happened. Yeah, that action would have been taken because she would have been asked to prove that through prayer, fertilizer is not required, that through prayer, the shilling that the economics, that the shilling, the shilling against the dollar, can, through player our shilling can strengthen.
Yes.
She would have been asked to prove that one. She would also been asked to prove that because of rains, because of prayer, just praying, that rains will come in
number,
in a good proportion.
Yes.
So my point is that that's a very serious matter that should not be allowed to. I think somebody needs to talk to the First Lady and tell her that we allow her to pray for the nation, to pray for people, but her pronouncements need to be carefully crafted and measured.
Okay, let's talk about the wage bill dilemma that we're having in this country. We had our third national wage bill conference under the Salaries and Remuneration Commission's chairperson Lynn Mingich this week. The conversation in this country, as doctors are striking, is whether the country can be able to pay its civil servants. President William Ruto says we are collecting 2.2 trillion Kenya shillings every financial year, and they're spending 1.1 trillion shillings on salaries. I want to first start from a practical perspective, Kisia. The conversation is about the current wage bill. How do we assess whether this wage bill is high, considering the cost of living that we are having in this country now, and how does this wage bill affect the current economic situation that we have in this country?
It is true that given the current circumstances, collection versus percentage of wage bill to current collections,
yes,
the percentage is high.
Yes.
It's abnormally high, 47%.
47, yes.
47%, and we should be sitting at about 35%. So the statement cannot be disputed. But what has created that situation is a question that we should be asking ourselves. And how can we correct? Because you see, I have seen the chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission talk about this matter. Then I ask myself simple questions. Yeah, even if you raided the public servants' wage bill, and I agree we need to review, but even if you raided, what are the likely savings? What savings can you create? Let's say 5%. 5% of 1.1 trillion is how much? It's maybe 250 billion shillings.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you were able to create a saving of 10% from that, is 110 billion. What impact does that amount have on the total budget of this country? Is it significant? I doubt. Okay. And then if you interrogated again that figure quite closely, and you said from the 1.1 trillion, what is the percentage that actually consumes that 1.1 trillion? You will find probably about 10% of the workforce, which means that 90% of the workforce are actually completely being under-remunerated. Completely. I'm talking about the teachers, doctors, police, and what have you. That 1.1 trillion is actually consumed by maybe 10%
of the civil service.
Of the workforce.
Okay.
Ministers, permanent secretaries, chief executive officers, and so on and so forth. Okay? And these caste people that they are trying to bring on board. So I think when we are talking about the percentage, we need to be a bit careful. Okay? The other thing is the issue of duplicity. This government has actually copied what Uhuru did. They want to introduce caste, and they talk about a wage bill. I have done a quick arithmetic. If we employ one caste, who according to Lynn Mengich,
yes,
that they are going to create impact processes. What processes are we talking about? Sarah Mengich, Lynn Mengich, who was going to school, cannot even defend her position properly.
Oh.
She cannot defend herself. She cannot convince Kenyans that it is actually useful to have these CAS fellows. I've worked out the figure. Direct and indirect costs of a CAS is not less than 15 million shillings per month. So 115 million per month times 12 is over 150 million shillings.
Yes.
One fellow. Okay? Multiply by the number. If it's 50, just multiply. You probably get about 1.52 billion shillings in a year. Okay? The question is, do we need somebody because of some stupid thing called impact? Okay? And processes.
Okay.
And the issue of duplicity. Are there people who are doing the job that this fellow is going to come and do? So, and then there's the issue of unnecessary expenses. There are expenses that we can do without. I quickly worked out the budget of the president. And even forget about raiding people who are not earning anything. People actually should be incentivized to produce. I can quickly see a saving of about 90 billion shillings in that office.
Oh,
90 billion.
Financial year.
In one financial year. If he was living within his means, let's raid his budget.
Yeah.
We have about 80, 90 billion. Then there are those we call first lady, second lady, and whatever lady. Okay? Whose role is not properly defined. It is not even in the constitution. They are consuming public funds. We can save about 1.5 to 2 billion shillings. So just reorganizing the budget and looking at the budget to identify areas of waste. Those are the areas of waste. If we raid those areas, we have over 100 billion shilling saving. Over 100 billion, Jed, that we can use not only for development, building roads, hospitals, and schools, and feeding our children. We can use that money to remunerate our doctors, our teachers, and police officers better.
Is the government then lying that there is no money, or is it a case of lack of knowledge?
It is an issue of prioritization. Which areas should we be focusing on? This government is focusing on areas that don't make sense at all. When you have a president consuming 9% of budget, it is immoral in the first place. It is reckless. Okay? So we need to relook at the budget and ask ourselves very tough questions. Should the president be consuming 9% of budget, most of it going to entertainment and travel, and other things that don't add value to Kenyans? Should we be spending money on first, second, and other ladies when our doctors are going without money, without being paid, our interns are not being paid, professionals are not being paid properly? It's an issue of misplaced priorities. Where should we be putting our money? We should be putting our money in ministries that can earn this country foreign exchange, like tourism and agriculture. Instead of spending money on useless lines like presidential travel and entertainment and first lady. Okay?
I want to ask something to do with not reviewing salaries upward. As a civil servant or people that are working in government, thinking, for how long will this last without reviewing our salaries? For some of them have been promised that their salaries will be reviewed upward. What does this mean about productivity for these civil servants?
You see, I mean, first of all, it is a very, is a statement that should be looked at with contempt.
Oh.
You know, in our constitution, it is very clear that people must be remunerated for their effort. It's a basic principle of management. But we have a government that believes that people should not be remunerated, compensated for their effort. But getting back to your question, of course, morale of any person who is not properly compensated goes down. Productivity, without blinking my eye, I will tell you the productivity will go down. And if productivity goes down, of course, the revenues that they are looking for will be affected. What about, when you pay people, they consume and you tax them indirectly. So the issue, how do they intend to spur, how do they intend to spur microeconomic growth? If, you're punishing people through taxation. If people are not earning money, they have no money to spend. So where will you collect the taxes from? Okay? Then, of course, a social and economic being of these people will be, there will be pressure. There will be family breakdown. When you cannot provide for your family, families will be affected. And the first family seems to suggest that we should be doing what? We should be living as family unit. Which family unit will you have if it cannot be you cannot meet the basic needs like food, shelter? Which unit are you talking about?
So there's no productivity, no family units, no morale, no taxes being collected.
There'll be nothing. This government needs to be reminded that people need to be compensated properly, and let's start with the doctors. So let us direct our resources where productivity can increase and therefore more revenue is collected.
What I would want to know then is, because doctors are saying there is money in government. Doctors are asking, why are you telling us to live within our means? You guys are living in opulence. Doctors are asking, why is the president telling us to be reluctant, to wait until the economy has flourished? Do you think the problem is the way government is communicating the tough economic times we are living in to these civil servants?
Jed, you can't be asking people to live within their means. Let me give an example. If you're a parent, you're asking your children to live within means, okay? And, squeezing them on budgetary items. Starting from maybe even instead of going, using school transport, walking to school and so on and so forth. Yeah? And just having the basics. Maybe even having 1 meal per day instead of 3.
Yeah.
But the same children can see you feeding in hotels, 5-star hotels. So your action betrays your statement. Okay? There's a lot of wastage, a lot of unnecessary expenditure in this government. Ministers are flying. You will find a minister taking a chopper from Nairobi to go and plant a tree in Kakamega, to plant 1 tree.
I remember that.
What level of stupidity is this one? Then how can you turn back and ask people to live within means? You have a president who is always in the air. He only comes here to change clothes and back. While he's saying that we should embrace technology, why can some of those meetings be held virtually? Is it necessary? Look at the entourage. Yeah? Kenya has normally the highest delegations in all these meetings. When people of means, people whose economies are doing so well, are sending a small delegation of 50 people, Kenya sends 400. Are you living within your means?
So how can we communicate this problem as government?
But I'm telling you how you can communicate.
Act.
Stop acting like a comedian. Act properly, like somebody has gone to school, so that people can believe you. Right now, their actions betray them. So they must just, start leading by example. Okay? They must allow scrutiny of their budgets. They must allow people to criticize. They must allow independent bodies, like the Auditor General, to give us information. So, living within the means is okay, but we should all be living within the means. It should not be selective. Right now, this government is pointing at us and forgetting themselves. The finger should start by pointing at themselves before pointing at Kenyans. They must start living within means before they ask Kenyans to live within means. In any event, the money they are spending recklessly on opulence, living like this fashion, and we can see it And they're even vomiting on our feet. We can see it. They must stop that bad behavior if they expect us to, respect what they're saying.
Honestly, Kisia, do you think the government really wants to change the situation? You're saying they're vomiting on our feet, saying something, acting differently. Do you think they really want to change?
They have no interest in changing because I think these fellows have just come to loot, but they don't want us to be part of the looting. They want to live large, but they want us to live, in poverty.
So there's no interest at all.
They are not even keen. When they talk about living within means, they are talking about you. They forget that they are living out of means. In fact, the dent on budget is being caused by them and not by the population.
Doctors are looking at this situation and they are thinking, if probably, I'm thinking, to Kisia, you had a chance to sit down with the SRC chairperson, Lynn Mingi's, or even President Ruto, with regards to this wage bill situation, how can they ensure, what steps can they look at from your side to ensure that there is fair and competitive compensation for these doctors, teachers, civil servants in general?
There are many things that we've suggested before, and we'll keep on repeating. But the issue of duplicity needs to cease. This government has employed more, they want to employ, I'm told, 51 cars. Do we need them? Maybe, even if they are necessary, not now. They have employed more than 250 so-called advisors. This country has been there for more than 60 years. We have lived without those so-called advisors. Even where we had during Kibaki's time, you could count them on your finger. Now we have over 250 so-called advisors. Advising on what? Some of them have no clue on how even government runs. Some of them have not even run a kiosk. Some of them are so theoretical. They have never worked anywhere. They have no experience. So they are coming to advise us on what? So let us be serious. The other thing that, of course, the government must do is to create a favorable a business environment so that businesses can thrive, so that they can collect more taxes. The more revenue we collect, the lower the percentage of wage bill to collections will be. Because there's a percentage. The lower collections you have, the higher the percentage wage bill.
Okay.
So that can be corrected by increasing our collections, broadening the tax bracket, and making sure that the business environment is just conducive. But when you introduce taxes after taxes, harassing businesses, businesses are closing. The Nairobi Stock Exchange is doing very poorly as we speak. We can say what we want to say, but when you have in 2 years more than 100 companies closing down and going and looking for other places to do business, you cannot say you are doing well. The other thing the government must do is to reintroduce performance management systems, not on paper, but through action.
So that every single
so that people feel appreciated. During Kibaki's time, the state corporations, the CEOs, the ministries which performed were recognized publicly. Publicly. We are number 1 to 10. And those who underperformed from bottom, the last bottom 10, were also recognized publicly. So we need to be serious about performance management if we are to move forward. Finally, we need to embrace technology. Not as a means of corruptly getting money, but as a means of making sure that we efficient and effective and economical in service delivery.
All right. We're now 30 plus days. I think we're in the 36th day, Kisia, of doctors' strike. We're looking at teachers who are also thinking about their salaries. We're looking at trade unions, looking at those that have registered in their unions, thinking about whether the salaries will be reviewed. If the president hasn't listened to what you've done, what situation are we likely to face in the near future?
Catastrophic. Because, Today, it is doctors who are being mistreated. If he succeeds, he'll go for teachers. If he succeeds, he'll go for other public servants. If he succeeds, he'll come for the police. If he succeeds, he'll go for the army. He should not be allowed. He must be stopped now. The president must be stopped now. Okay?
But how do you stop a president?
He must be stopped. How can you say, how can you be stopped?
How do you stop a president?
You know, a president,
a
president is an employee. A president is not an employee of parliament. A president is an employee of the people. The same people who gave him the job can send him home. The same people. He is not our employer. He is our employee. He forgets he's an employee. Yeye ni mfanyikazi, si mwajiri. Are we together?
We're together. We're going to wrap this conversation up because you're getting on fire. But thank you for tuning in to this conversation about the witch bill situation. Kisia says, act before you talk, and if you talk, act what you say. Kisia, final words as we're closing up today.
Two things that I want to say today, that we cannot pray our way into a solution. We cannot pray our way into a solution. We must be very intentional about resolving the challenges we are facing. If we think that we can sort out our challenges through prayer, I think we are heading towards the wrong direction. And finally, I want to besiege my president and my friend because I like him. And I want him to succeed. Jed, I want him to succeed.
You are lying, you don't want him to succeed.
I'm telling him I want Ruto to succeed because he is my personal friend. He must stop talking to Kenyans like he's talking to his children. He is not addressing children. Because when you see the president talking, and he's talking to us as if he's talking to children, I think it's a big problem. And I want to refer him to Lee Kuan Yew. He must read that book if he has not read it. If he has read it, he should read it again. From third world to first world. How Lee Kuan Yew was able to inspire the people of Singapore to be the best in the world.
He'll get better advice to lead this country.
Let him read that book, Lee Kuan Yew.
Thank you.
I can lend him my copy.
You have
read
a copy.
It 3 times.
But you don't want him to succeed, do you really? Thank you for tuning into this conversation. Philip Kisia is unscripted, talking about matters to build this nation. Share this video with as many people as possible so that we engage with the country. People must know how we can leave this country a better one for the next generation. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day.
What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house, this is not Sogoi. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.